Good morning, America. I'm Joan London.
It is morning, isn't it? And I'm Charles Gibson. It's Wednesday, August 25th, and if you don't know it, we did a
Weren't we just here?
primetime show last night from 10 to 11. We finished 8 hours ago. I don't know about you. I spent the night here on the couch.
You did not.
She doesn't believe me. I don't understand. You can't get... No, we didn't get a whole lot of sleep last night,
No.
right? You go back to your hotel room and you're
I
pumped
said,
after
boy,
doing
I
something.
got out of here so fast, and I was, by 11:30, in bed, wide awake.
Anyway, we're back this morning, wide awake, we hope, for these 2 hours. We're going to be leading this morning talking about the billion-dollar spacecraft, the Mars Observer, may be lost in space 11 months after its launch. NASA waits and worries over the fate of its most ambitious mission to the red planet. What may have happened to the Mars Observer? They really don't know, but we're going to get an update from the NASA lab that's been tracking the mission and find out what its possible loss could mean to the space program in this country.
Well, we may not be getting pictures anytime soon from Mars, but we have more than enough from the British royal family, thank you, specifically the estranged Prince Charles and Diana. They may not be spending much time with each other these days, but as recent photos show, each is certainly spending a lot of time with their 2 children in full view of news cameras. So the question is asked, do these photo ops have more to do with family relations or public relations? We'll learn more about this latest development in the royal separation in this half hour. Spencer Christian, meanwhile, is on vacation, so we welcome back once again Tracy Butler of our ABC affiliate, WRIC-TV in Richmond, Virginia. Hi, Tracy.
Hello, good morning to you.
Hi.
I'm really glad to see both of you this morning after such a
Did
late
you take
night.
bets on this, or?
That's for sure. Yeah, really. Well, today, the land of sunshine is where I'm going to be taking you. It's a land that usually is so sunny that they name towns for it, but today, it's not going to be a usual day, and in the land of sunshine, you'll need an umbrella. Joan?
All right, also ahead, the man with one of the world's most recognizable faces talks about his new movie, The Man Without a Face. Cousin Mel Gibson chats with, we're going to make him a cousin of yours, chats with our own favorite face, Charlie Gibson. Right now, Bob Jamieson has the news of the day. Bob, good morning.
Morning, Joan. Good morning, Charlie. Good morning, everyone. Some food has finally made it through to the starving Muslims of Mostar. 2 U.S. Air Force planes flew from Germany to the Bosnian city during the night. They dropped more than 13,000 military meals ready to eat in an expansion of the 6-month-old program of food drops to besieged areas of Bosnia. The UN says it will request more airdrops if a convoy doesn't get through on the ground, and it hopes to break the Croat blockade of Mostar today, as ABC's Jim Laurie reports.
A convoy with a 7-day supply of food for the Muslim population hopes to reach the beleaguered city by midday. But the UN has been frustrated repeatedly. It has tried to get relief supplies to Mostar for more than a month.
Our access is completely in the hands of the Bosnian Croats. If they are going to continue to deny us access, well, I think it rests on their conscience. The death of vulnerable people such as women, children and the elderly.
Conditions in Mostar are desperate. This hospital, which received some UN medical supplies last weekend, has now been struck 3 times by mortar fire. Most people in the Muslim quarter, up to 55,000 including refugees, hide in cellars. Coming outdoors is dangerous. Airdrops of food, while no doubt welcome, could expose people to more danger, braving gunfire to retrieve food parcels. A real ceasefire is the only answer, one that all hope will come soon. Jim Laurie, ABC News in southern Herzegovina.
There's still no message from Mars to NASA this morning. The Observer spacecraft is supposed to be in orbit around the red planet, and it may be there or it may not. NASA has no way of knowing for sure whether it has a billion-dollar bust on its hands. Details from ABC's Jim Slade.
Mars Observer is still missing. At least it remains incommunicado. Disappointed engineers at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory's control room have resumed attempts to communicate with the spacecraft. They stayed off the air a while yesterday when the ship was scheduled to swing automatically into Mars orbit, turn on its radio, and check in. Hunching over computer screens, they waited for the line of a signal, but the screen stayed blank.
Okay, we've come up negative on our search for a signal. I guess it's time for Plan B.
Plan B means to keep on looking and hope the ship will check in.
We presume the spacecraft is in orbit about Mars, but we have no positive confirmation of that because, as for the last 3 days, we have no communication with the spacecraft.
And they won't get confirmation until they can talk to the ship. The next chance for it to do something automatically comes late this afternoon when a 5-day timer set to the last signal the ship received is due to go off.
It's quite possible that it is hearing from us and we are just not hearing from it.
It's also possible the $980 million spacecraft is lost for good. No matter what happens, NASA will have to investigate the incident. There are other plans and other spacecraft set for Mars, and nobody wants to miss something that might threaten them. Jim Slade, ABC News, Washington.
One of the most controversial aspects of President Clinton's health care reform package may be how to pay for it. ABC News has learned that the administration is studying whether to finance the plan by making huge cuts in Medicare and Medicaid. Documents from the president's health care task force show the White House could slash $200 billion from the two programs over 4 years. Cable TV companies and their supporters say they will appeal a ruling which would let telephone companies challenge the monopoly cable operators have in many areas. A federal judge reversed part of a 1984 law that barred subsidiaries of Bell Atlantic from operating cable franchises in areas where they offer phone service. Bell Atlantic's chairman calls the decision a victory for consumers. Los Angeles police this morning still aren't confirming reports that Michael Jackson has been accused of sexually abusing a 13-year-old boy. And other than a written statement issued from Bangkok, Michael Jackson isn't talking about the criminal investigation now underway in California. ABC's Mark Litke has more from Thailand.
If Michael Jackson was troubled by the criminal investigation, it didn't seem to affect his performance. Here in Bangkok last night, he thrilled more than 40,000 fans as he kicked off his tour of Asia, the so-called Dangerous Tour. The few fans that had heard of Jackson's problems didn't seem to care. They were too overwhelmed with seeing their rock idol live. Some had paid the equivalent of a month's salary for a ticket. This morning, Jackson and most of his party remained secluded in Bangkok's Oriental Hotel, where they occupy an entire floor. Members of the hotel staff have said Jackson is not feeling well, though it might be just jet lag. Jackson has released a statement here through his attorney. In it, he says, "I am confident there will be a fair and thorough investigation and that its result will demonstrate there was no wrongdoing on my part." Still, even the suggestion of a child abuse case will be a thorny issue in several Asian nations, where conservative government officials have been critical of Jackson's flamboyance in the past. South Korean officials have already barred Jackson from their country because his concert might have a negative effect on South Korean youth. Criticism has also been heard from Singapore, a society so conservative it's actually against the law to chew gum. Jackson and his party remain confident the Asian shows will go on as planned, but the Dangerous Tour may have to navigate some dangerous political waters before this is over. Mark Litke, ABC News, Bangkok.
And now the latest on the president's vacation and what's being called the cruise to Camelot. The Clinton family joined the Kennedy clan yesterday for a 4-hour yachting trip off Martha's Vineyard. During the afternoon cruise, the president met with Jacqueline Onassis. Aides said that, among other things, the two families discussed raising children in the White House. And that's our look at the news, and here's Joan and Tracy.
All right, Bob, thank you very much. 8 minutes after, it is time for Tracy Butler, who's in for vacationing Spencer Christian. What do you have for us today?
Well, we're going to travel to the land of sunshine.
All right,
this
California?
morning. Actually, parts of California
Okay.
and Arizona. You're exactly right. But we're not going to find all that much sunshine there today. In fact, take a look and see what is going to happen in the land of sunshine. Sun City, California, Sun City, Arizona. What's happening today? Some monsoonal moisture combining with former tropical storm Irwin and current tropical storm Hillary, all going to mix together. And in the land of sunshine, they are going to see lots of clouds. And
That's now after the hour. NASA scientists, as you heard in the news, continue their vigil this morning, waiting for some word from outer space from the billion-dollar Mars Observer spacecraft, 11 months and 450 million miles into its space odyssey. David Evans is former director of the Mars Observer Project. He is joining us outside NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California. Appreciate your being with us, David Evans. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I'm happy to be here.
Still no word, I gather.
Still no word. We're, of course, disappointed, but still hopeful.
Is there literally no idea where this spacecraft is? It's impossible to track it or find it from any other means. It has to communicate in order for us to know where it is?
Well, we know the trajectory quite accurately, Charlie, so we are assuming it is one of two places in orbit about Mars is our fondest hope, and we're tracking where we believe it would be based on the trajectory it would have had with a normal burn into orbit. So
That's
we
one-
don't have to hear from it.
That's one possibility, that it put itself in orbit.
Yes.
The other possibility is what?
The other possibility is that it did not burn at all, that the motors did not fire, and it went by Mars, and it's now in a trajectory around the Earth. I'm sorry, around the Sun.
Around the sun. For it to
Right.
have gone into orbit around Mars, was it programmed to do that itself, or did
Yes,
that
it
have
was.
to happen with communications from Earth?
No, we had loaded commands in with what we call a script to count down and go through the maneuvers, so it did not need contact from us to automatically go into orbit, assuming it was working properly, of course.
Right. Now, if, best case, it did put itself into orbit, for this mission to work and to be successful, you still have to reestablish communications with it?
We most certainly do. We need to give it commands to do the next burns of the motors and to do things like that in order to have a successful mission. We must hear from it, must establish communications over the next few days or so.
All right. David Evans, appreciate your being with
Certainly.
us. Also joining us this morning from Washington is John Pike. He is a space analyst and director of the Space Policy Project at the Federation of American Scientists. John Pike, there's a lot of ifs in that. If indeed it did put itself into orbit, if we are able to reestablish communications, then perhaps this mission can be a success. What are the odds, do you think, of that?
Well, it's very difficult to say. Obviously, there is a element of luck involved in all of these complicated missions. They say the initials JPL stand both for Jet Propulsion Laboratory and just plain lucky. The scientists there have been lucky in the past, they'll be lucky in the future, and with any luck, they'll be lucky today.
As
We'll
I
just have to see.
as I understand it, today is key because this thing is programmed that if it doesn't get communications from Earth for 5 days, it's supposed to call in on its own, right?
Right. What it's supposed to do is reconfigure the radio transmitters on board, looking for a combination of hardware in its radio system that will successfully reestablish contact. The theory is that there's been some sort of electrical problem with the primary radio, and that we're just now waiting for the computer to realize that the primary radio is out and to call home using the secondary radio.
So if this thing put itself into orbit, I'm talking about it as if it were a person, but it's a
Right.
spacecraft, but if it put itself into orbit and if its computers reprogram and it calls back, there's still a chance that this thing can work.
Well, there's a very good chance that if that's the scenario that we're dealing with, that at 5:35 Eastern time this afternoon, that Mars Observer will call home and that the mission will continue as though there was no problem here. There have been communications problems with this spacecraft in the past that were successfully resolved, and so there is a possibility that there'll be a happy ending to this story this afternoon. There's also a possibility that the spacecraft has been fatally damaged and is sailing off into oblivion.
All right, let me put aside the just plain lucky JPL definition, and let's take the worst case scenario. If this thing is a bust, how bad a blow is this generally to NASA?
I think it's certainly going to be a political setback to them. Now that the Cold War is over, there are real questions about how much money we ought to be spending on space. It's certainly going to be a setback to the planetary program. People have been planning on this mission for over a decade, looking forward to getting the information from it. I think it's also going to raise questions about NASA's strategy of flying small numbers of very large spacecraft rather than larger numbers of small spacecraft. Of course, the problem is that to do big missions, you need big spacecraft.
John Pike, tell me, this was a $1 billion mission. Tell me what for $1 billion we were buying. If this works, what are we getting? Is it worth the billion?
Well, I think we're buying two things. First, we're understanding the weather and climate on a planet, Mars, that is both similar and different to ours, providing insight into how our environment and climate work. Secondly, the higher resolution pictures that we would get from Mars Observer would tell us something about the climate on Mars in the past, looking for dried out lake beds or ancient seashores that might tell us whether at some distant time in the past Mars was much more like Earth, whether life could have perhaps evolved there. Ultimately, one step further to understanding whether we're alone in the universe or whether there are other civilizations out there in the galaxy.
All right, John Pike, appreciate the explanation. The key time, you say, 5:35 p.m. this afternoon?
That's my understanding as to when we're expecting ET to call home, so I guess we've got our fingers crossed.
All right, ET call home, 5:35. Set your watch, folks, and check to see whether it calls into the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. John Pike, thank you. David Evans, thank you for being with us. 16 minutes now after the hour. The camera doesn't lie, they say, or does it? Do the recent photos of the British royals say more about their relations with their children or with...
How about a 93 Ranger? Fleet price only $77.95. You save $3,900. And this 93 Escort, fleet price $73.50. You save $2,000. Don't miss this sale. Courtesy Ford's Fleet Supermarket. This weekend only at 2 locations.
If you can't use force to stop a friend from drinking and driving, hop in. Use your wits.
This is your car.
Yeah.
My brother had the same car. He never let me drive it, though.
No?
So you must have had me in mind when you bought this. Wait till he hears you've got the same one, and you let me drive it, right?
Okay. Yeah. Take the keys, call a cab, take a stand. Friends don't let friends drive drunk.
In our next half hour, Mel Gibson explains why he was his own 4th choice to star in his directorial debut.
18 minutes after. Judging from the photographs, we might think that the Prince and Princess Diana are doing their best to spend quality time with their kids, despite their separation. But this royal mother and father have been accused of creating photo ops with their children for the sake of public opinion. Last weekend, British tabloids reported that the normally reserved prince was romping with his kids in Scotland. And now Princess Di is with them at Disney World in Florida. Now, why are the prince and princess getting such a bad rap? Robert Jobson, royal correspondent for London's Daily Express, joins us from Orlando, actually, to give us the real picture. Good morning.
Good morning.
Why are people accusing them of creating photo ops in order to improve their own self-image?
The situation is this, I'll just put you straight on that. The Prince and Princess of Wales, although they're separated, they're not necessarily using the press in any way to, or using their children in any way to stage photo opportunities. The fact is, she is the most photographed woman in the 1980s, and people were bound to take pictures of her. There's no way they're actually stage managing any photo opportunities here.
I guess she always stands the chance of people saying that she's using the boys. However, there's no way she can help being photographed. Now, I think, though, that it's Prince Charles. People aren't used to seeing him in that kind of a surrounding. Do you think that's where it all started?
I think so. The situation with the Prince of Wales is he's always said he'd never jump through hoops for the media or for anybody, really. The fact that you had a photo opportunity in Balmoral the other day with William and Harry, with him fly fishing and teaching Harry to drive, people were a little bit suspect when they saw a camera crew in the background. That's a little unfortunate. There was a camera crew there which are filming a documentary about his 25 years as the investiture of the Prince of Wales. Therefore, people were a little bit critical of him for that.
And in fact, I'm told that down in Disney World, Diana has been kind of unresponsive to the press.
Oh, she has been unresponsive. There is a little difficulty here. She doesn't want to be seen to be using the boys as props in an image war with her estranged husband. That would be foolish. And also, Buckingham Palace would not be too appreciative of the fact that she would be posing up with her sons.
Are you putting that lightly, though? You say Buckingham Palace wouldn't be too appreciative. Haven't they actually expressed their displeasure with how many photographs there are of Diana and the children?
In the past, they have expressed their displeasure, but they have to be realistic. The fact is, she is the most photographed woman in the 1980s and early 1990s. They must realise that that is going to be the situation. People, professionals, will get photographs of her.
Did that displeasure start? There was that trip to Nevis where you saw Diana with the children out on the beach a lot, and it looked as though she might have been creating that, but in fact, or was she just cooperating because you really have no other choice in her situation?
Well, there was a cooperation at that situation, but that was very early on in the separation. Things have now been ironed out, and they simply do not want to be using the boys. They are 8 and 11 years old after all. And if a mother can't take her children to Disney World, that's nothing sinister in that. She's simply taking them to Disney World to enjoy Disney World, and she's not particularly going to cooperate, and why should she, really?
8 and 11 years old. How are they reacting to all of this? What do you know about that?
They're reacting very well. I mean, they are very happy children. Prince Harry, for example, when he went to Germany recently with his mother, when he was being driven around in a tank, dressed up in his own little army uniform, he loved it. He loved every minute of it. He really is a really wonderful little character.
Since the separation, have they fallen into some kind of a rhythm of sharing the children?
It's all been worked out before the separation. As soon as that they will share an equal amount of time between the prince and the princess. And of course, most of the time, you've got to bear in mind, they're all away at boarding school, and so the parents don't see them very often, apart from at breaks. So when holidays do come along, obviously their parents will want to take them away. It's not on holiday. It's not a matter of trying to outdo the other one. The fact is, this year alone, they're not doing too bad. They've been to Nevis, they've been skiing with their mother, they've been on a Mediterranean cruise with their father.